You cannot give up on your prayers. So you prayed for healing and the healing hasn't come. You prayed for finances, the finances haven't come. As a pastor, you prayed for your church to grow and increase, but it hasn't happened. You prayed for your children to serve the Lord with you. It hasn't happened. You prayed for your marriage to get restored. It hasn't happened. You pray for a lot of things in life, but it hasn't happened. What do? You throw in the towel and say, well, I guess God just doesn't want to answer my prayer. No. He does want to answer your prayer if it's according to his will, and if it's according to the word, it is his will. And the things I've mentioned today is definitely God's will for your life. So what happens when we don't get our prayers answered quickly? Well, Jesus said not to give up on our prayers. In Luke chapter 18, verse 1, it says that Jesus told them a parable that they should always pray, and I like this, and not give up. See, answers come to the persistent person. In the book of Hebrews, it says it is through faith and patience we inherit the promises. Not faith alone, but you got to add patience to it. And so sometimes, the answers don't come. And there are so many different reasons. There's forces of evil that's trying to keep the answers. The nature of the request requires some time. Sometimes God's working on your character during this time. As a parent, do you give your child everything he or she asks for right away? No. Can you imagine a 16-year-old son who just got his driver's license and he asks you for a Corvette? As a parent, you're not going to give him a Corvette even if you had plenty of money. Why? Because as a 16-year-old, he's not ready for this kind of weapon. You understand, this kind of vehicle. So even as a parent, you wisely let your child wait. It doesn't mean you're not going to bless your child. It just means that they have to wait for a while. Well, God does the same thing for us. He's smarter than a parent. And so sometimes God is working on your character. And during that character, you develop strength. You develop character as well. You develop compassion for others who are suffering. You see, if God answered your prayers quickly all the time right away, you'd probably be spoiled and weak and morally deficient. So sometimes God waits to cause us to have to work on our character in those moments so that we can be ready for the blessings of God. The other thing is we just got to keep on praying and not give up. And in Luke chapter 18, Jesus gives a parable about a widow and an unjust judge. She cries out to him and says, hear my case, grant me justice against my adversary. And because the woman was poor, she didn't have any standing, he ignored her. The judge had more important things to do in his mind, like take care of some of his wealthy supporters. But the woman wouldn't give up. In the morning, she would bang on the window and he'd look and close the drapes and says, what's wrong with this woman? She keeps crying out, grant me a hearing. I want justice. And then in the afternoon when he's at the court, she comes in and interrupts the court and says, I want a hearing. I want justice against my adversary. And they drag her out of court. And here's this unjudged judge thinking, she's crazy. What's going on with her? And at dinner time, he hears a banging on the door. He opens and there's that widow. I want a hearing. Grant me justice. And he's thinking, just stop it. Just leave me alone. And in the middle of the night, he hears some rocks hitting his window upstairs. And as he looks down, there's that widow crying out, give me a hearing. Eventually, the judge says to himself, even though this woman's poor and I don't really care about her case, but because of her persistence, I'm going to give her what she wants or she's going to wear me out. And Jesus said, do you see what persistence does when a judge is unjust and a person keeps at it and keeps calling out for justice? She gets it. Well, don't you think Jesus says that the Father who is just is going to grant you justice, but you can't give up on your prayers? And I believe this is such an important principle. You cannot give up on your prayers. You have to keep persisting. Ask and keep on asking, seek and keep on seeking, knock and keep on knocking, and the door will be open. So sometimes people say, am I supposed to keep praying about something if I've asked? Yes, you keep praying, but it doesn't mean you pray in desperation. It doesn't mean you pray in doubt and unbelief. I heard one minister said, it's impolite to ask God for the same thing in the same way. You have to have so much confidence in a just God that the way you approach him is not the way a widow does, but rather in the way a child of God does with a father who cares about him. So yes, you ask God, God, heal me of this, or heal my child, or whatever the request is. But then the next day, what do? You pray in faith, in confidence. Father, I just thank you. You heard my prayer yesterday. And then you start quoting promises from God. See, that's a different way of praying. Instead of praying in desperation, God, heal me. God, when are you going to heal me? God, I've been praying for months and I still have the pain. I still have the symptoms. God, when are you going to do it? Please heal me. See, that's not a prayer of faith. Now you're persistent, but you're persistently in desperation, persistently in unbelief. No, change up your prayer and start praying as Paul says in Philippians 4, pray with thanksgiving. Yeah, keep on praying. I'll give you an illustration. If someone said to you, I want to take you for lunch this weekend for your birthday, would you keep calling that person every day? Hey, I just want to know if we're still on. And at work, he gets a call and he picks up and says, what's up, buddy? I just want to know if it's still on. He goes, well, yeah, we're still going to take you out for your birthday. And what happens in the middle of the night? He gets up, picks up the phone at 3:00 in the morning, and it's you. I just want to know, are we still going to have my birthday dinner? Do you see how silly that would be? Now you're persistent, but what are you doing? You're showing unbelief. You're basically telling him you don't believe it's going to happen, and that's why you keep asking. Sometimes when you keep asking, it shows not persistence, but doubt. So when you ask, there has to be a confidence. That's why Jesus said in Mark 11:24, you have to believe you received it. Okay? That means you have to believe it's yours. You have to have so much confidence that God is faithful that when you approach God, you say, Lord, I just want to thank you. You're such a good God. I can't wait to see how you're going to come through in this prayer. You're so beautiful. You're so great. Thank you. See, now you're praying with confidence. And then put on the full armor of God. Tear down the strongholds. Come against the forces of evil that's trying to hinder your prayers. So yes, persistence is necessary, but make sure you're walking in persistent faith and not doubt and unbelief.